You're just in time for supper, dear.
You're
Coraline.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Let's Talk. I'm John, and we're here today to talk about the 2009 stop-motion animated film Coraline. And we're also here to talk about its brand new 4K Blu-ray from Shout Factory. But before we dive into that, if you are a fan of 4K Blu-ray reviews, movie reviews, tech and game reviews, we try to do them all here on the channel, and nothing helps out more than by you liking this video and subscribing to the channel. So Coraline was released in 2009, is directed by Henry Selick, and he is also the director of A Nightmare Before Christmas. And that actually might be a little surprising for a lot of people because they label that movie as
Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Now, Tim Burton is the producer on that, and he helped out a lot. Obviously, you could see Tim Burton's work on A Nightmare Before Christmas. But Henry Selick had just as big of a part in that, and he is the director of that film. And if you really didn't believe that he directed that film and you've never seen Coraline, and this will be your first time seeing Coraline, you could see his fingerprints all over A Nightmare Before Christmas and all over Coraline. He has a certain taste and a certain flavor that he brings to his films, and Coraline is no exception. In fact, I think Coraline is a much better movie than A Nightmare Before Christmas. I think that this movie is beautifully animated, it tells an amazing story in it, and it's also a horror dark fantasy. And I think that for a film like this, an animated film, I think this is a kind of film you could show to your kids and really start to get them into horror, because I really do find that this movie is one of the most beautiful animated films I've ever seen, and it really should be more appreciated. And this actually happens to be the first film from Laika Animation Studios. They are in Oregon, and actually the studio was created by the Nike creator Phil Knight and is actually overseen by his son Travis Knight, who is also the director of Kubo and the Two Strings. So there's a certain passion from these guys about making beautiful animation films, and it really does show on the screen. Like, they've only made 5 films since 2009, so they're not like a big animation studio like Disney or Pixar, but what they are doing, they are putting out some really special films. I haven't actually seen all of their films. I still haven't seen Box Trolls, and I didn't love all their films either. Like, Missing Link just didn't work for me, but between this and Kubo and the Two Strings, they have made 2 of my all-time favorite animated films. This movie is just tremendous, and I'm really glad that they were able to actually get Henry Selick in there to help them make this stop-motion animation film, because that's what they do there. They make these stop-motion animated films, and stop-motion is one of the hardest things to ever animate because you have to make that the hard way. Like, there is 24 frames in each second of film. You have to move each piece that you see on camera 24 times just for 1 second of film. And this movie is an hour and 40 minutes long. So the amount of effort and work that had to go into this, plus telling a coherent story, and not just a coherent story, but a beautiful story, because this story follows a little girl named Coraline as her and her parents move into a new house. And they're both very distracted parents, unfortunately. They're writing a book, she's her husband's editor, and they have a daughter, Coraline, who's just bored and lonely and doesn't have any friends. And one day her father says, hey, why don't you go explore the house? This is a huge house. Why don't you go take a walk around and just find everything that goes on in this house? But she accidentally discovers a little doorway or a portal into another world that's in this house. And what she finds is that on the other side of this portal are her parents, but an alternate version of her parents that pay attention to her and make her feel like the center of her world and give her everything that she wants. And in this world, she's happy now. She's found everything that she could have ever dreamed of. But what she doesn't realize is, because she's getting everything she ever wanted, that there is some kind of dark, twisted fantasy going on here. And nothing is as it actually seems. And she has to figure out what is going on and why this is happening. And it really just unravels into a beautiful movie. I don't want to spoil this for everyone, because I feel like Coraline is a very underseen animation movie, and I feel like a lot of people wiped it to the side and didn't even really think about it. For the people who have seen it, they know how beautiful this movie is, and how it's just something that you should show to your kids. I think it's a nice tale that really shows that you should appreciate your parents for what they are. And you can't always get what you want when you want it. We all have to make sacrifices. Our parents are making sacrifices. And I think it's something that you could show to your kids and that they will understand. I don't think you show this to like a 4 or 5 year old. I think you show this to like a kid that's like 9 or 10 years old. And I think they'll get the message that this movie is trying to portray to you. And it's told through, again, just such beautiful animation. A Nightmare Before Christmas had the benefit of having Danny Elfman write the score for it. And the score for this was done by Bruno Coulis, and I think it worked beautifully with the story that they're trying to sell. I don't think it's as good as the score for A Nightmare Before Christmas if we're comparing the two, which might be an unfair comparison, but I think it works perfectly for this story. And I actually think this is a story that's a little bit darker than A Nightmare Before Christmas, but again, it's told wonderfully. It's very much a horror movie. It's very much a dark fantasy movie, and I think it works just so tremendously. It's just so beautiful to look at. You're never bored through the entire film. It's paced perfectly. You know, there's moments without dialogue that are just gorgeous to look at. Little things on the screen that you wouldn't expect to be so beautiful to look at, and just incredible that they animated. Like, one little thing that just stood out in the first opening scenes of the movie where she's just stepping on a rug and she's trying to flatten it out, and you just see the animation for that. You know how long that must have took? The amount of effort that went into this movie to make just such a beautiful movie, and a debut movie for a studio like this. They knocked it out of the park, and if you haven't seen Coraline yet, I can promise you, you won't be disappointed with it. You're gonna really enjoy this. And I think now with Shout Factory working with them and bringing all their movies to the 4K format, I think it's gonna get some more eyes on it, and I'm really excited about that. So let's talk about this new 4K from Shout Factory. So Shout Factory has teamed up with Laika now, and they're bringing most of their movies to the 4K format, if not all of them. But only 2 are out right now. It's Coraline and Paranorman. And in February, at the very end of February, right now it says February 28, 2023, we're going to get Kubo and the Two Strings and Box Trolls on 4K, which I'm going to grab Box Trolls because that's the only one I haven't seen from them. And I'm really excited about this team up because, like I said earlier, this is really going to help shine some new eyes on these beautifully animated stop-motion films. And man, this Steelbook is beautiful. Just the way the colors flow throughout the entire thing. I don't know if you guys can see the back as well. That is gorgeous. What is Steelbook? They also have a slipcover version, so you actually get the Shout Factory slipcover with the silver bar across the top, so it'll look nice on your shelf, whatever option you choose to go. I personally recommend all of these will have Steelbooks, and they're going to look beautiful on your shelf in one big group because they do kind of have a similar art style, and they're going to blend together beautifully. And I'm just so happy that they got together and did this, because we would have just got some plain Jane releases if Shout Factory didn't get a hold of it. But they really did knock it out of the park with their packaging. When you pop it open, it's a 2-disc set. You get a 4K and a Blu-ray. Some beautiful artwork on the inside. Individual disc design, which is just something that I absolutely love. That's a little something that you don't have to do, and but when you do, it's really appreciated by me. I just love that individual disc design. You also get a nice little booklet in there. It's not very long. It's not like Criterion booklets where it's like 70 to 100 pages or anything like that. No, it's just a regular little pamphlet, but it really is beautiful. And they, again, just a little bit of extra. My only slight complaint about the packaging, and it's not anything to do with Shout Factory or Steelbooks in general, it's just that there is nothing that tells you the stats of the movie, such as runtime, directors, or anything like that. If it's got Dolby Vision or Dolby Atmos on it, you have to look that up. There's nothing about that on the packaging itself. And that's the biggest flaw with most Steelbooks. Luckily now we're actually getting Steelbooks with all the stats on the back and front and on the inside, so we don't have to worry as much. But this is just your regular standard Steelbook that doesn't include that. So if you want to know if this movie has HDR10 or Dolby Vision, or what kind of soundtracks are on here, you're going to have to look that up on Blu-ray.com. But luckily for you, I can tell you that this film does have Dolby Vision, HDR10, Dolby Atmos, and it's presented in its original aspect ratio of 1.85, so this thing is going to fill your screen up. And I know that a lot of people don't think that upgrading to 4K for animation is necessary because it's already animated. How are you going to clean this up? How is it going to look better? Well, HDR does a lot of that, because the high dynamic range and Dolby Vision in this case are really going to make the blacks look darker, and are going to make the colors just pop off your screen a little bit more. And a very colorful movie like this, the HDR and Dolby Vision do incredible. I was talking online with Dennis Cinema 4K, who is one of our biggest supporters, and he was the one who was talking to me. He said this is a 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10 transfer. It's one of the best looking 4Ks, and I 100% agree with him. This is an amazing transfer to 4K. Now, I've only seen this on streaming before. This is my first time owning it, so it could have been compressed, but it didn't look as good as it does now. It just really everything looks so vivid and dynamic. But it's a very dark but very colorful movie, and the blacks are completely black, and the colors really do just shine off your screen when they're asked to. Coraline's yellow jacket, her blue hair. I mean, the animation, again, is just beautiful. Like, you can see each streak of hair. During the opening credits, they're really putting the doll together and everything, the Coraline doll with the eyes. And just the animation is just incredible. You're going to want to see this for yourself. Every little bit of detail is just shown on your screen, and it looks incredible, beautiful. Them stitching that up, and you see this throughout the entire film. I never saw any dips in quality, not one time, and I was looking for it. and it's an incredible transfer. Absolutely, the Dolby Vision HDR10 are what is carrying this and making this beautiful transfer. So if you're a fan of animation, you're gonna want to see this 4K just for the visuals. Now, the audio, like I said, has a Dolby Atmos track on here, and it also has Adobe True HD 7.1. So whatever system you have, this thing is gonna sound amazing. Now, I don't think that the soundtrack is as good as the visuals, because the visuals are some of the best you're ever gonna see, but it is a really good soundtrack. It makes good use of all your speakers, and like I said, this score is awesome, blends well perfectly with that dark fantasy that they're going for here. It gets a little bit, gives it that spooky kind of feeling. This is something actually I could recommend watching around Halloween. I think you're really gonna get into it. It has that fall feeling to it every time they're outside. The score for this film really does sound great coming out of this new Dolby Atmos track. It does make good use of everything. A little bit, I would have liked a little bit more bass, but again, it's not completely necessary. I really do think that the Atmos track we got on here blends very well with that beautiful visuals that we've gotten, and overall, it's just a phenomenal disc. Now, as far as extras go, the extras are not going to be on your 4K disc. They're actually only going to be on your Blu-ray disc, and those extras are previously released extras. There's nothing new on that from what I was able to find, but the extras that are on there are really awesome, and I really think you should check them out because it talks about Laika Studios and everything that they've gone through as far as becoming a company, how they fleshed out these characters, about with the animators and everything that they had to go through, like I said, getting that frame by frame, and you have so much respect for the work that they did to make this film actually come to life, because I don't know if I have the patience to sit there and move something just the slightest bit, take the picture, move it again the slightest bit. I would probably at some point flip out and just throw them all around, and then we're starting over because I just lost my shit. So that's really something that it has to be commended. And they show this all here on the extras of this 4K. Well, not the 4K, on the Blu-ray. And I really do think you're going to enjoy those extras. If you're a fan of those little featurettes, they're not the longest, but they are on here, and I do think you should check them out, especially if you're a fan of Laika Studios and Coraline. I think you're going to be tremendously happy with the overall packaging here. I'm very happy that this is on my shelf. I'm going to grab all of them at some point as funds free up. We're going into the Christmas season, so I'll probably get them all in February when the others come to 4K. But right now, just to have Coraline, and when I sat down and watched this the other day, I was just blown away, ecstatic, happy, had a smile on my face throughout. The movie flew by because it's just so enjoyable, and you get invested with all the characters in this, mostly Coraline, but even her side characters like the cat, who's voiced by the amazing Keith David.
What do you think you're doing?
You're just going to have a fantastic time watching this movie, and if you're going to watch it, you're going to want to grab the Shout Factory 4K Blu-ray, and I recommend the Steelbook. So overall, what would I give this out of 10? I'm going to give this a really solid 9.5 out of 10. I'm only going to take 0.5 off because the Atmos track I think could have been a little bit better, and obviously a little more extras on here. It doesn't have the Criterion treatment as far as extras go, but these are very, very, very minor complaints because this is a tremendous animated film that I really think you're going to want to grab this. Even at full price, it's worth it just because of all the effort that was put into it, and even just all the effort that was put into the film back 13 years ago. It really does deserve to be commended, and really does deserve to be in your collection if you're a physical media collector, and I promise you, you will not be disappointed by it. And we'll actually leave our Amazon affiliate link in the description below if you want to check it out and grab it through there. It doesn't cost any extra money for you, and it really does help the channel out so we can keep bringing these 4K Blu-ray reviews to all of you. And nothing really does help the channel out more than by liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and then running out in those streets and telling all your friends about us.